She lost the weight, but still hated the mirror. The mirror never lied, but it never told the whole truth. Jessica always hated mirrors, not because they reflected her size, but because they reflected what people whispered when they thought she couldn't hear. Lazy. Unlovable. She'd be so pretty if... From as early as 11, Jessica had learned to look at herself not with her own eyes, but through the imagined gaze of others. Her mother's passive-aggressive comments, "Are you sure you want seconds?" were the first cracks in the glass. By high school, boys dared each other to ask her out as a joke. One even left a note in her locker that read, "Lose 100 pounds and maybe you'll be worth it." Jessica pretended she didn't care, that she was confident, but every outfit was a battle. Every selfie was cropped. Every birthday wish was the same. "Please let me wake up skinny." She tried every diet trend. The cabbage soup, the keto cult, the starvation apps that gamified her misery. She'd, lose 20 pounds and gain back 30. Each rebound felt like proof that she was broken. But she wasn't. She was exhausted. Exhausted from fighting her body and defending it at the same time. By the time she turned 26, Jessica was over 280 pounds and barely leaving her apartment. She avoided reunions, dodged cameras, even avoided eye contact with cashiers, afraid of being silently judged for what she bought. One day, she stared into her bathroom mirror, trying to smile. Nothing moved. Not her lips. Not her eyes. She whispered to her reflection, "I don't know who you are anymore." And that was the day she started considering a permanent change. Not another diet, not another gym membership she'd abandon, but something radical, bariatric surgery, not for vanity, not even for health, but because she couldn't stand living in this body another year. She believed losing weight would finally make her feel free. She had no idea that her real prison wasn't her body, it was her mind. The day she chose the knife over the scale. Jessica's decision didn't come lightly. She'd spent 2 weeks researching gastric bypass, watching YouTube videos of smiling women pulling up oversized jeans like battle trophies. They always ended with radiant afters, but never showed the lonely in-betweens. She wanted a shortcut. She wanted a rebirth. She wanted to erase the version of herself she believed no one ever truly loved. The consultations were awkward. The psychologist asked if she had realistic expectations. "Of course," she lied. "I just want to be healthy." Truthfully, she wanted revenge. On the boys who laughed, on the girls who excluded her, on her father who left without saying goodbye, on the world that taught her that love had a weight limit. She thought, if I become unrecognizable, maybe I can finally be loved. The weeks leading up to surgery were brutal. A pre-op diet of protein shakes and clear liquids turned her into a ghost of herself. The hunger wasn't just physical, it was emotional. She missed food like an ex-lover. It had been her reward, her comfort, her silence in moments of pain. The night before surgery, Jessica stood in front of the mirror one last time. She looked at her belly, her arms, the folds and curves. She whispered, "Goodbye." She didn't cry. She didn't smile. She felt nothing. Like she was burying someone she never had the chance to love. When the anesthesia kicked in the next morning, she slipped away with one final thought. When I wake up, I'll finally be someone else. But becoming someone new would cost more than she imagined. Recovery wasn't just physical, it was psychological warfare. Jessica woke up to pain and nausea and regret. Her stomach was smaller, her body stitched and swollen. The nurse told her she did great, but nothing felt great. The next few days were a blur of IV drips, sips of water, and a gnawing emptiness that food used to soothe. For the first time, Jessica had to sit with her feelings, with no snacks, no binges, no numbing agents. And what she found was a silence so loud it screamed. In the mirror, the changes were slow. Her face thinned. Her collarbones peeked out. Clothes started to hang. Friends complimented her. Co-workers cheered her on. But alone in the stillness of her apartment, Jessica would break, She missed chewing, missed flavor, missed control. Food had been her friend. Now it was her enemy, and she didn't know who she was without it. Sometimes she'd take a bite of something, forbidden, and feel a mix of guilt and euphoria. Other times she'd stare at her reflection and think, I still look fat, even after losing 40 pounds. Then 60, then 90. She couldn't celebrate, because the girl in the mirror was still her, and she hated her. No one tells you that weight loss doesn't guarantee self-love. No one prepares you for the identity crisis of becoming what you thought you wanted, only to feel more broken than ever. And no one explains how easy it is to shrink your body, while your shame only grows. Her reflection changed, but the voice in her head didn't. Jessica had dropped over 100 pounds in just under a year. The scale said victory. Her BMI said normal. Her doctor said congratulations. But the mirror still said, not enough. There were moments she should have felt proud. Pulling on a size 8 for the first time, walking past her old high school crush who didn't recognize her, receiving shocked compliments from relatives who used to nudge the dessert tray away from her. But instead of pride, she felt panic, because beneath the smaller body lived the same fears, the same shame, the same hunger for approval that no salad could satisfy. She started obsessing over new flaws, the loose skin that hung from her arms like empty sleeves, the stretch marks that no cream could erase, the folds of her stomach that looked deflated rather than slim. She'd lift her shirt in the mirror and flinch, not at fat anymore, but at the damage left behind. It didn't matter that she'd succeeded physically. Mentally, she still saw the before. The worst part was the praise. You look amazing now. You're a totally different person. I bet the guys are all over you. Every compliment felt like a confirmation of past rejection. If she was amazing now, what had she been before? Unworthy? Unlovable? Invisible? Even worse, she started to feel imposter syndrome in her own skin, like she'd cheated, like her new body was borrowed. Like any moment someone would say, "We know what you used to be." Jessica began avoiding mirrors again, not because they reflected fat, but because they reflected expectation, and her internal critic was crueler than ever. You still have no jawline. Your thighs still jiggle. Your boobs are sagging. Your boyfriend would leave if he knew the truth. She thought weight loss would bring peace, but all it brought was a louder war. When praise turns into pressure and love becomes performance, Jessica started dating again. And first, it felt like magic. Men who once ignored her now offered drinks, opened doors, laughed at her jokes a little too hard. One guy, Adam, was handsome, charismatic, and constantly told her how sexy she looked. He didn't know her before. And that felt like a clean slate, but it also meant pretending. She hid old photos, ducked questions about her past, told vague stories about getting healthier. She wore clothes that flattered the new frame but covered the evidence, the sagging skin, the surgical scars, the ghost of a former body still haunting her present. Adam loved her body, but Jessica didn't, and every compliment felt like pressure to maintain the illusion. She skipped meals before dates. She cried in changing rooms. She felt panic when the scale fluctuated by even a pound. Sex became performance, anxiety wrapped in lingerie. She never let him touch her stomach, never undressed in daylight, never fully exhaled around him. Because deep down, she believed, if he knew the truth, he'd leave. Love wasn't healing her. It was exposing her, and it terrified her. She wanted connection, intimacy, safety. But she also wanted to disappear, to not be seen, to not be touched. One night, while lying beside him, Jessica whispered, "Do you think you'd love me if I hadn't lost the weight?" Adam laughed lightly. "You mean if you were still big?" She nodded, holding her breath. He paused. "I mean, I don't know. That's not really my type." Jessica didn't cry. She just smiled, politely, turned off the lamp, and silently began grieving the body that had been worthy of love for all of 10 months. The rebirth that felt like a funeral. Everyone told Jessica she had been reborn, but it felt more like a funeral, and the body they buried was hers. She started dreaming about her old self, sometimes running, sometimes crying, sometimes just staring at her. In one dream, her past self reached out and whispered, "You left me behind." She woke up in sweat, shaking. Therapists called it body dysmorphia. Nutritionists called it adjustment disorder. Friends called it overreacting. But none of them understood the grief. Jessica hadn't just lost weight, she'd lost identity. The old Jessica was mocked and isolated, yes, but she was also kind, empathetic, resilient. She survived ridicule and rejection and still managed to laugh. Now Jessica felt fragile, obsessed, paranoid, worse, judgmental. She'd started to resent people who were still overweight, feeling disgust instead of compassion. Because if she could do it, why couldn't they? She hated that thought. She hated who she was becoming. And more than anything, she hated that her worth now felt conditional, on her waistline, on her calorie count, on staying small enough to matter. She stood in front of the mirror again, almost a year post-surgery, and traced the skin that hung like reminders of every pound lost. She whispered again, "I don't know who you are." But this time it wasn't sadness. It was terror. Because, for all her efforts to become someone new, she had no idea how to be her. The return of the old voices, and the rise of new addictions. Jessica thought she'd buried the past. But as the scale kept dropping, something darker began to surface. The same discipline that helped her lose 130 pounds began mutating into obsession. She tracked every crumb, walked extra miles in secret, turned down dinners with friends out of fear of messing up. She couldn't enjoy a single bite of food without hearing whispers in her head. "You're losing control. You're slipping back. If you gain weight, no one will want you." One night, she stood in the bathroom after eating a single slice of bread. She looked into the mirror. Her stomach wasn't bloated. Her face looked the same. But in her mind, she had already failed. And then she did something she never thought she would. She forced herself to vomit. Just once, she told herself. Just this time. But it wasn't just this time. Jessica had lost food as comfort. And now she used control as punishment. Each purge was a twisted prayer. "Don't let me go back." And just like that, her addiction transformed. Where once she binged to feel something, now she restricted and purged to feel nothing. No one knew. She looked healthy, thin, beautiful even. But inside, her body was screaming. Her heart raced from dehydration. Her hair started falling out in clumps. Her nails grew brittle. Her period stopped. Her smile was a lie. She'd won the war against her weight, but surrendered her peace in the process. And the mirror? It didn't help. It watched, silent and cold, as she destroyed herself to meet the standards she once resented. Breaking point, and the mirror that finally shattered. It was a Tuesday morning, cloudy, unremarkable. Jessica had barely eaten in 2 days. She stepped on the scale. 121.2 pounds. Lower than she'd ever been. She should have felt victorious. Instead, she felt empty, lightheaded, cold. She looked into the full-length mirror in her bedroom, wore a tight tank top, turned sideways, pulled at the loose skin on her belly, poked at her arms. Then she whispered, "I still look disgusting." And in a flash of rage, hot, fast, uncontrollable, she grabbed a hairbrush from the dresser and hurled it at the mirror. The glass cracked, not completely shattered, just a long, jagged fracture down the center. Jessica dropped to her knees and sobbed, not because of the broken mirror, but because she finally realized, no matter what she did, she still hated herself. That moment, broken, trembling, kneeling in glass, was her awakening. She whispered between tears, This is not who I want to be. And for the first time, she meant it. Not, I want to be skinny. Not, I want to be loved. Not, I want revenge. But I want peace. And peace couldn't be found in calories or compliments or control. It had to come from something she'd avoided her whole life. Acceptance. The slow road back. And the woman in the mirror who finally spoke. Recovery wasn't a straight line. Jessica didn't wake up healed. She didn't suddenly love her body. She didn't throw away the scale and dance in the rain. But she made a call. To a therapist who specialized in post-bariatric identity trauma. She went to her first appointment trembling, admitted the purging, the self-hate, the fear of gaining weight, the rage toward her former self. And the therapist didn't judge. She listened, and said something that cracked Jessica open more than the mirror ever. You never hated your body. You hated how people treated you because of it. It clicked. Jessica hadn't chased weight loss for health. She'd chased safety. She'd wanted to belong, to be protected, to stop being the target. But in that chase, she'd abandoned herself, punished the very body that had survived years of cruelty. From that session forward, the work began. She stopped purging. She threw away the smallest jeans she kept, just in case. She took down every before and after photo from her wall. And one day, months later, she stood in front of a new mirror. Same eyes, same scars, same stretch marks, but a new gaze. She didn't smile. She didn't cry. She just said, "You've been through hell, and you're still here. I'm sorry for hating you." For the first time, her reflection didn't look like a stranger. It looked like a survivor. Redemption isn't skinny. It's seeing yourself clearly. Jessica never became an Instagram fitness model. She didn't land a brand deal or write a best-selling memoir. She just got better. She rebuilt friendships, found a support group, started eating without guilt, moved her body in ways that felt joyful instead of punishing. She stopped chasing perfection and started choosing presence. Her weight stabilized. Her body softened again. But her heart, it finally felt whole. One day, she visited her childhood home. Her mom, older now, gentler, offered her a slice of pie. Jessica smiled and said yes. They ate together in silence, not counting bites. In the hallway bathroom, she found her old mirror, the one that had seen so many tears. She stood in front of it, now older, wiser, healing, and she didn't ask, "Am I thin enough?" She asked, "Am I kind enough to myself now?" And the mirror finally told the truth, because the redemption wasn't in her transformation. It was in her reclamation. She didn't need to become someone new. She just needed to remember she was never the problem. The world's gaze was.